Welcome to Grit Real Estate Investing, your go-to podcast for mastering the essentials of real estate investing. Hosted by Omar Muhammad, the entrepreneur, and Ronald Willis, the neighborhood landlord. We are here to break down the grit formula, getting started, regulations, investments, and tenants to help you build your financial future. Whether you are a first-time investor or a seasoned pro, we've got the insights, strategies, and expert advice to help you succeed. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Grit Real Estate Investing podcast, workshop, whatever you want to call it. My name is Omar Muhammad, helping you improve and progress in business and in life. And over there is the co-host, Mr.
Ronald A. Willis.
Yes, they surprised you. So, this is the second podcast, and, he and I will be doing these along with some other people. So we'll have an opportunity to bring bankers on, accountants on, anybody that's helping real estate investors do their best. We'll bring on other real estate investors because Mr. Willis is about to tell you about the type of real estate he's doing, but there are other individuals that are doing totally different projects. So we want to bring those individuals on this podcast as well. We happen to be broadcasting from the Morgan State University, Go Bears, and we're in the School of Business, the Grays School of Business. You see people walking back and forth. So that's the bridge that leads to the main campus, and I guess they call this is the west side of campus. So that's where we are right now. All right, well, let's jump right into it. We came up with this formula, maybe 3 years ago, and we call it grit. And what we used to do it before the pandemic, we used to do it here on campus. And we then moved it to Zoom, and now it's morphed into this podcast where you can get bite-sized chunks. Is that right? Yeah, bite-sized chunks of Mr. Willis talking about his experience in real estate, as well as other opportunities. So GRIT stands for getting started, regulations, investments, and tenants, the favorite people of all landlords, y'all. Tenants. So we're gonna have some sessions on working with the tenants. All right, so before we do that, we're just gonna jump right into it. The first episode, if you didn't hear and you don't know who Mr. Ronald Willis is, hey, go back to the first episode, tune into that, and then come back here as we now dig deep into real estate. All right, I know you've been itching to get to it. So real estate investing from a sociology major
From a sociology major
to a real estate tycoon.
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 That's right.
All right, so let's get into it. How did you get started in real estate?
Okay, so I bought my first house in Parkside Gardens for myself, of course. Didn't think of becoming a landlord. I just wanted to transition from my parents' house on Caroline Street to this first house. I learned what turnkey meant, and you should know what that means. Or it means that the house is in impeccable condition, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. People were living in it, and it was $14,000
Wow.
back in 1976. And I said, wow, I'm transitioning after I graduated from Morgan, got a good job, saved my money, and I needed a down payment. So, although I had monies of my own, I learned from a mentor about a piece of legal paperwork called a gift letter. What in the world is a gift letter? So a gift letter, in short, is a loan, a gift from an immediate relative to show to the bank that you're buying this house from that you have monies available for a down payment. Now, the bank is not really concerned if you pay that money back to that relative. They're just concerned with that you have that money needed for the down payment in the bank, so they can say, yep, this person is worthy, both bank-wise, and they have the credit rating and the job together to take this venture of buying, in my case, my very first house. So I did that. And that with my own monies, I moved in this little house, this row house, brick row house in Hamilton, mainly a blue collar, strong blue collar neighborhood. Again, turnkey, because although I was mechanically inclined, I still had a lot to learn about the infrastructure of a house.
Absolutely.
So I didn't want to move into a house that I had to repair the roof, the furnace, I had to do any major repairs. So I thought for me, as a newcomer to this industry, that I would move into a house where I had little to no problems. And that was the case. The only problem I had was changing the locks. And that wasn't really a problem.
Yeah.
Just have a locksmith change the locks.
Right.
So I moved into that house and I thought, Lord, this is it.
Yeah.
I graduated from Oregon, got my first house. In fact, before I even bought the house, I was buying food, furniture, the things that I would need to move in. And I did. But after about 2 years, moving from one row house on Caroline Street to another row house on Parkside Gardens, gee, I like this place, but I can hear my neighbors talking.
Oh,
I can hear my neighbor's television going on. I mean, it wasn't a great disturbance, but I wanted more privacy.
absolutely.
So I said, you know what, I'm gonna start looking for another house.
Mm.
And I've from 1976 to 79, I was in the house on Chatford Avenue in Parkside Gardens.
Mm.
And I said, you know what, I wanted some breathing room.
Yeah.
So I moved to the house that I'm in right now.
Oh, wow.
In Hamilton, not that far from Morgan. So I said, wait a minute. I just want to move from one house to another. But just like the economy is in question right now, interest rates were high. I said, gee, that's too much of a risk. Nobody wanted to buy the little house in Parkside Gardens. I said, why? So I said, but I found this house where I'm in right now, and I saw the potential. I saw the vision. 2-car garage, Cape Cod, 3 levels. Maybe I could convert those 2 levels to apartments. Those were all dreams at the time. So I must admit this, that they were the very seasoned real estate agents that came out. They were Jewish descent, and they convinced me to do my homework. They provided me some places to go to for the homework. And I did that, and as a result, I rented that little house out and moved to where I am now. And those tenants that I rented to are there today, by the way.
Oh, wow.
They are there today,
Oh,
and they didn't convince themselves to buy this house from me until 40 years later.
wow.
And I'm thinking, what caused that?
Yeah.
Sociology.
Yeah.
They said, Mr. Willis, I like a better refrigerator. What's a light crown molding?
Yeah.
Crown molding. And the more they kept requesting,
Yeah.
the longer they stayed. And of course, what went up? The rent. The rent kept going up.
That's right. Yeah.
So I moved, so they convinced me to keep Chatford Avenue, move to Birchwood Avenue, and take that risk, take that leap of faith. So I had a mortgage on Chatford Avenue. I have a mortgage on Birchwood Avenue, and I had to get a second mortgage to put down on Birchwood Avenue. Wow, what a risk. What a tolerance of risk. So I didn't have a village to support me. My mother, Snooky was her nickname, loaned me the gift letter, but I couldn't ask her for any more because I'm a man now. I'm on my own, I'm a college graduate. So I took the risk of leap of faith, and it worked out. So those tenants who lived on Chatford Avenue, I sold them that building, that house, for $93,000, 40 years later.
Wow. And you purchased it for
$14,000.
14,000.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of using the first house, the leverage from the first house to buy the second house, the house that I'm in now.
Yeah.
And then walking in my neighborhood, riding my bike in my neighborhood, one house after another. I saw the for sale sign, for sale by owner. Oh, really? Let me investigate that.
Yeah.
Bought that. Next house, same thing. And it kept on multiplying. Now, we kept on taking the risk. But there was no wife, there were no children, there was nobody in my family had done anything like this.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I'm all alone in this. If I sink, it's on me. If I swim, it's on me. So over the period of years from 1976 until 30 years later, I've been purchasing houses every 3 or 4 years. And it's not like I went out looking for them. I'm a neighborhood landlord as of today.
Yeah.
I'm a neighborhood landlord. And as I said initially, that of the 12 houses that I have had, I sold 2. And one on Shackford Avenue was one sold to a 40-year tenant, and another one was sold in Bel Air Edison area. Again, that's in East Baltimore. I bought it for $20,000 and I sold it for $73,000. And of course, I added things to it, central air, or new roof, new windows, but still, that was phenomenal profit. And of course, I paid the taxes on both of those properties that I sold. Those taxes are called capital gains.
Yeah.
So I began to feel like this must be my calling. And I must say this, Morgan has how many letters in it?
Morgan 6.
Ronald. Willis. Willis.
Yeah.
All the houses have 6 in it. And that was a
Interesting.
temptation to say, maybe I should follow this hunch. I live 62,
Yeah.
I can't give the address,
Right.
but I live, all the houses have 6 in it.
Wow.
Either on the address is 6 somewhere in there,
Right.
or I bought them in the 6th month,
Yeah.
16 or 7. They all have 6 in it. So when I look at the 8 deeds that I have, wow, these deeds go back to the 1850s. Some of these deeds. And I'm thinking, why is the number 6 constantly showing up? It's just a hunch. I'm not a gambling man, but I'm saying when you're trying to make a decision and asking God, or whoever you believe, should you make this decision, pay attention to such things.
Yeah.
My mother, Leola Willis, was a landlady in Northeast Baltimore, in East Baltimore, and she became a landlady. I'm sorry, she was a landlady, yes. And her son, one of her sons, began to follow around the maintenance man when he was a little boy. That's me. And I began to have a feel for maintenance. So I began to put 2 and 2 together. And so one house led to the second house and the third house. And fortunately, I used my money properly. Because as I said earlier, in my lifetime, somewhere in my 50s, I owned 8 of the 10 houses that I now have. And I began to look at Peter Jennings on the news.
Right.
I'm not much of a reader, a book person, but I do pay attention to the local news, the world news. And I began to figure out, well, you know what? What can I do to improve my mortgages? Well, you pay the mortgage, like most all homeowners, and then there's something called the principal.
Yeah.
So if you pay the mortgage, whatever it is, $50 or $100, whatever you can spare on the principal, you reduce the time it takes to pay off the house. So I began to learn such things about housing. And being in the safety field, I began to learn codes. And I must admit, real estate has taken a tremendous change since I've been in it. There was no lead program 30 years ago.
Right.
Now every landlord has to adhere to a lead program. There was no registration with MDE Maryland Department of the Environment 30 years ago. So the codes and the regulations that was there 30 years ago, I'm sorry, the codes and the regulations that are there in place now were not there 30 years ago. So I'm combining all these work experiences that I've had, the Bethlehem Steel experience, the DPW experience, and my own common sense experience, all together has made me a successful landlord. So I look forward to the day when I'm no longer a landlord, when I have put these 10 properties into somebody else's hands. But right now, I enjoy it. I live for this. I don't have children. I'm not married. So this gives me a lot of time to massage my dream. And I never believed that I would be making this much money at age 60, at age 40, at age 30, and now it's up to $23,000 a month net in rents alone. And by the time I pay the 2 mortgages that I have on the 10 that I have, and the water bills and the other expenses that go with it, so we talked about close to $20,000 take-home pay a month. And so I'm the kind of landlord that I train my tenants where the valves, water valves are, where the gas valves are. I talk about safety to them. They appreciate it. I must tell you this story. I've had a 27-year tenant on Arkansas Terrace, one of my oldest properties, Arkansas Terrace in West Baltimore, facing Drusel Park. And I went to see him one day after work, and he was saddened, and he said that my veterans benefits 10 years is up, and he had one more semester to finish.
Oh, wow.
So I
To
said,
finish school?
was that
To finish school.
To finish school,
Right.
right. But his VA military benefit only has 10-year cap to it. So he said, where am I going to get this $500 for tuition? I said, well, William, you have almost $700 in security deposit interest that I'm holding for you whenever you leave. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Tell me how much the tuition and books, lab fees you need. Write me a letter indicating that I will pay that for you, and you don't have to pay me back as long as you use the interest on your security deposit. And that's for him exactly what he needed.
Wow.
So that's the kind of landlord I am. I help deserving tenants. And I got that from my mother. She was a landlady, like I said, and she rented rooms, and she helped people who were homeless, who needed that second or third chance, who were deserving. And that's a key word, deserving tenants. And so you have to really, talk about that at a later time. How do you examine people's credentials, their body language, their sincerity, to make sure that they live in your place, they don't burn it down, that their habits are okay, that makes them want to stay month after month and year after year.
Absolutely. So good, Mr. Willis. So let's talk about, we have about 10 minutes left in this particular episode. I know people are wondering, oh wow, he got those properties back a couple back in the 70s.
Correct.
But as you were coming toward today, how were you able, and that's, people always ask this question, where do you get the money to do that?
Okay.
How were you able to finance those opportunities?
Well, if you've been listening, I'm sure, working for the National Guard, the military in general, that you don't make a whole lot of money, but it's how you utilize your money. I live a very middle America life. There's nothing wrong with Mercedes-Benz, but I don't have a Mercedes-Benz. Cadillac, I live a very kind of like a Warren Buffett kind of life, low key. I don't have to have the yacht, but for those who do, it's fine. But I'm more of a conservative, I should say. Conservative dresser and other things that I have. I have my toys, I have my hobbies, but rephrase your question one more time.
Yeah. So, how do you get access to capital?
Okay, so relationships with loan officers,
Mhm.
relationships with loan officers, and convincing them that you're worthy of the loan. And they measure that by your credit score. My credit score is approaching over 800 right now. And it's been that way since I've known Ronald Willis. And so how you do that is we live in a capitalistic society.
Mhm.
And that means that credit is stronger than cash.
Mm,
Cash is still king,
right.
but loan officers look at closely, and underwriters, they work with the bank. They look at very closely how you manage that credit over a long period of time. They look at that very, very closely. So at 17, I took out a credit card of $500.
Mm,
But somehow I had the motivation, inclination to pay that credit card off within 30 days. And that is still my philosophy today.
right.
That's advice I would give to anybody, to not be so influenced by gotta have this on television, gotta have this on television, but be prudent with your money. Be prudent with your money, and the money that you do make, save some. And it's difficult. I know it's difficult, but I still have a 5 gallon jar, that all pennies and quarters. I have one of my buildings that I collect quarters from the wash and dryers.
Yeah.
And you better believe after 3 years, there's $3,000 there
Yeah.
waiting for me. So I convert that $3,000 into a CD.
Yeah.
See, so you get these funds from the places that you've worked. And in our system,
Yeah.
you have to have 40 quarters in order to retire and get a pension. So my little $1,700 take home pay as a pension is a result of all those years that I've worked for Bastille, for many, many other places, substitute teaching. I can go on. And I didn't have any distractions of children or having to pay out large sums of money of mistakes that many of us make. We make mistakes and they can set us back. And so you're looking at a person who didn't have a bad run. I can't say that I was a drug addict for 3 years and I bounced back, or I had some problem with the law and then I got out of jail and I bounced back. I haven't made those kind of mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but I'm perfect enough to use my money properly. So when it came down to a down payment, when it came down to negotiating with contractors of all sizes, that my negotiating skills really helped me to lower the cost of everything that I purchased. For instance, I would go and look at a house that's for sale and have the negotiating skills to tell this real estate agent or owner, hey, did you realize you have asbestos on your floor tiles? Did you know there's asbestos surrounding your furnace? Who's going to buy that house from you? So I was able to negotiate based on what I've learned from the previous jobs that I've had.
Absolutely.
See, and where many people on jobs are playing cards on their lunch hour, taking a nap on their lunch hour, I was making telephone calls to real estate agents, on my lunch hour, on Saturday and Sunday. So it's just a matter of how much you want to put into it based on how much you get out.
Absolutely. So, you just answered the second question is, how do you find these properties? And, on the phone,
Okay.
driving around in the neighborhood, you're doing that. Now, you're not doing all type of investing. What type of investing are you doing?
Well, I didn't go look for duplexes.
Yeah.
But in my neighborhood, on my daily jog, there was 2 addresses right side by side. I saw one that said for sale by owner, and the other was a real estate agency. So I just began to. By the way, the city job that I had as a safety officer, I had the city car, and I was going around the city looking. So I would just take down the addresses. But most of the
He was working, y'all.
I was working.
He was working.
I was I was working.
Yes, yes,
So we all have lunch hours.
yes.
We all have downtimes. So in those downtimes, you make the best of the use of your time.
Absolutely.
You see, so that's what that works. And so I'm a talker and I'm a doer. And a few of the properties on Pioneer Drive, had already purchased one house there, and here comes a neighbor saying, "Here's my keys. I see you're doing a great job with this house here. My husband and I'm breaking up with my wife or husband, and we just need to get out of this sale. We need to get out of this house. Please take it."
Wow.
So I didn't vulturize them. I just said, "Well, what is the offer? Well, what can I do?" So there's so many different ways to purchase the property. So many different ways.
Absolutely. In the future episodes of the Grit Real Estate Investing podcast, we'll talk about those as well. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, just believe that when you're buying property, do your homework. I can't emphasize that enough. Find out who owns the land. If you can buy the house in fee. If you're not inspection savvy, hire a professional person before you make that purchase. A professional person to give it a good house inspection. In the house where I live right now, I had it converted into 2 separate apartments. I had it rezoned.
Yeah.
So that's part of my homework.
Absolutely.
I'm a divorcee, and I had a choice to turn over that house I live in now to my ex-wife, or I had a choice to make a situation where I acquired the house and converted it into apartments that I'm still doing today. It's a system called house hacking. It's nothing new about it. And in today's climate, if you buy a house, look at it that way, look at it possibly that way, that you could convert it into 1 or 2 apartments.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good deal. So we'll be back again for 2 additional episodes. And again, some of the episodes we're going to do recorded, and then some of them we want to hear from you, where you can call in as we are having a conversation. And it just may not be the 2 of us. We're the host of the show. We may bring in some other individuals as well. All right, and you can find us on edacmorgan.com. The app is coming soon, y'all. It's going to be nice. Future episodes, we'll talk more about that. And again, EDAC Morgan is not just about the podcast. We have some other activities there as well. So look on the website, you'll have an opportunity to see the resources that we have for budding and existing entrepreneurs. Until we see each other again, first of all, thank you, Mr. Willis, for doing this.
You are.
And continue to improve and progress. Peace. That's a wrap for today's episode of Grit Real Estate Investing. If you found this valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow investors. Got a question or topic you would like us to cover? Reach out to me, Omar, at edacmorgan.com. That's Omar at edacmorgan.com. And remember, fortune favors the bold. So go out there and invest with grit. See you next time.